Welcome to EPG Pathshala lecture series on data analytics. In this session on data analytics, we will be discussing about visualization for social networks, which is another form of big data. The learning objectives are to know the importance of visualization for social network data and understand the various types of visualizations for social network data. So, the visualizations for social networks, why it is important? In the recent era of social media domain, we find more and more data is being dumped from social network environment. So, one important big data which we can see in the real world are from social networks. Therefore, when you try to analyze such a voluminous data from social networks, it is equally important to visualize the data also. Therefore, visualization techniques or visual representations for social network data is very important. Some of the visual representations that are considered appropriate for social network data are node edge diagrams and matrix representations. These visual representations have also been popularly employed in various social networking tools. Let us understand each and every of this technique in detail. Let us start with node edge diagrams. A node edge diagram is an intuitive way to visualize social networks. So, where we have various nodes and edges, the nodes highlighting entities like an individual, or it can be a node, or it can even sometimes be a group of entities. The edges there highlight the relationship between the nodes, where the nodes are humans in certain scenarios. So, with the node edge visualization, many network analysis tasks like component size calculation, centrality analysis, pattern sketching, etc., can be very effectively and very beautifully represented. What actually this node edge layouts are available and how these node edge layouts can be generated? Node edge layouts can be generated using a random layout, force directed layout, or using a tree layout. A random layout looks like the one shown in this slide. Here the nodes are actually selected at random and the edges between the nodes that are selected in random are created, and then gradually this process is repeated and the graph grows in size. In other words, the layout keeps increasing. So, the random layout actually puts the nodes in random geographic locations in the given layout, and when you connect these nodes you can get a graph. So, what happens is when the number of nodes keeps increasing, the layouts over here will be occupied by more and more dense graphs or more and more nodes and edges. What happens is, if the data set is so large, then this random layout may generate a very complex and difficult to understand layout. But the time with which you can generate a random layout way of visualizing social network is a linear time, that is order of n. This random layout structure or visualization also gives you information about the structural characteristics of various instances in the given scenario. The second way by which you can represent social networks is force directed layout. In force directed layout, what happens is we actually create various nodes and edges. Similar to random layout, nodes represent individuals or entities, social network entities, and the edges the relationship between the social network entities. Then whenever we have a node, the node is considered to be an object that repels, that move away, and edge is the one that keeps the object at point or that pulls the object together. So, when you generate a force directed layout, various nodes and edges connected are highlighted and that keeps these repelling objects intact. The edges keep the repelling objects, which is nothing but the nodes, intact. So, the initial random layout first need to be generated, over which the rest of the edges and the rest of the nodes will be put into picture. So, this is actually an alternate for the random layout. The forced layout actually it is based on the number of edges as well as the number of nodes. That is, the running time of generating a forced directed layout way of representing social network is order of n log n, or it is dependent on the number of edges. In case if the given social network structure is complete, in other words any node is connected to every other node, then the order of E will be very high, thereby making the complexity of force directed layout very high. If you compare random layout and force directed layout, the running cost of force directed layout is much costlier when compared with random layout, because here it is order of E, and if the graph is complete then its order will be very high when compared with the random layout, which is completely based on the number of nodes alone. Therefore, this forced direct layout may not be suitable for graphs with larger number of nodes. In certain cases it is best not to select force directed layout for visualizing social networks that involve nodes which is greater than 100. The next type of layout is tree layout. Tree layout actually provide, apart from structural detail, it also conveys context information, because there is going to be a hierarchical structure or nature associated to a tree layout, and this will help any human to easily grasp what exactly these layouts are trying to convey. While drawing a tree layout, more constraints need to be considered while drawing it. The contextual informations, when it is very high, then the graph that you are going to generate will be more complex. So, finally, you may end up with a hierarchical layout, and that will facilitate very easier network analysis. There are various variants for tree layout. One is a hyperbolic tree layout, another one is a radial tree layout. Now, whether it is a hyperbolic tree layout or a radial tree layout, the idea is to utilize the concept and the context. So, the region of understanding greatly lies on what is that you are trying to focus and what context are you trying to highlight. Only if you are clear on the focus and context, then better visualization effects with the help of animation techniques can be used for making the user understand and get global as well as local insight about the given data. So, both 2-dimensional as well as 3-dimensional animations may be used for visualizing the given data. Few sample graphs that were generated by various researchers across the globe have been highlighted here. So, this is an example for a radial layout, a parabolic tree layout. Here you find movies and various journal of movies, and what are the parameters that are associated to these types of movies. So, if it is a music related movie, then these are the sets of music related movies. Then you may have trailers or say short films. Trailers, short films are grouped as one. Then there may be a commercially hit movie, such can come under another category, and so on. So, this diagram gives you a picture of a tree layout wherein parabolic views are highlighted. The arcs here are the parabolic views. Let us take a look at another example. Here this is a radial layout, the same tree layout, but you are making use of radial lines. The radial lines are not parabolic, they are straight lines. So, this provides a complete picture of a tree, and all the rectangles highlighted in this diagram are various social network entities. Apart from node edge diagrams and tree layouts, we have matrix representations which are useful for visualizing social network data. The most simplest form of matrix is a simple Boolean matrix, where rows and columns represent the vertices of a given graph. Sometimes the values inside the matrix can be highlighting an important context related to the given nodes. So, values can also be associated with edges to provide more information about the networks, and accordingly the visualization of the given network may be improvised. What are the advantages? We are trying to minimize the occlusion problem that may be caused by node edge diagram. Occlusion problem here in the sense, there may be a node high above say an edge, or there may be two edges that are crossing each other, or two or more edges may be close to each other as if they look like one single edge. All these problems are called as occlusion problems. Clustering and associations among the nodes can actually be very effectively discovered when they are represented in the form of nodes highlighted by various cells in the given matrix. The node edge diagrams actually help in providing a better readability, but when you take this matrix representation, it outperforms the readability that is provided by node edge diagrams. In other words, the matrix representation clearly highlight the connectivities very effectively for human understanding. Take an example of a visualization tool called Matrix Explorer that provides dual representation, both the tree layouts as well as the matrix representation. So, the matrix representation here highlights two important parameters. One is the node vertex features and the time. Now, when you are using these features for temporal analysis, the time along with the node vertex information supplemented with temporal features can be used for providing a better visualization of the given data, and hence interpretation may be very easy. If the same node edge diagram is representing, which is representing the given matrix is done, then it may look like this. So, you may end up with different such types of node edge diagrams or tree structures. Suppose you want to visualize the social networks on the fly, that is online. There are different web services, different web communities that are available online. If you want to visualize them, then it is fundamentally visualizing online social networks. What is that you need to do is, you need to understand how do you want to visualize, because if it is going to be online social network, different perspectives can be brought into picture, like it can be user centric, or we may be trying to highlight social relationships shared by different group members, or it can be content centric social relation, or it can even be combination of this and hence called as an hybrid social relationship. So, if you are trying to visualize them, then different other techniques are there. Let us take case studies and then understand how these visualizations are achieved. Suppose you want to visualize web communities. So, in 2003, Club Nexus is actually a web community that is comprised over than 2000 Stanford University students. The kind of friendship these students exhibited is visualized as shown in this web community structure. Here you may find it is a kind of node edge diagram only, the fundamental node edge diagram only. The nodes over here indicate the various students and different properties related to the students, like the place where they live, etc., and the kind of interconnections highlighting the friendship shared among these students. Here this diagram you can find there are few individuals who seem to be key players in the given friendship circle, because these students are connected to majority of the other students in the given group. So, such clear demarcation of vital information can be easily visualized using such structures. Another tool developed by Vester, they have made use of the node edge network layouts for visualizing web communities, and in that you can find the image of social entities like individuals and the interconnection between these individuals that was figured out from a social network application. Now, this colored representation of the individuals and the groups also indicates the context related to various groups. So, this is another way by which you can visualize web communities. Now, what happens when you are representing different color cues for different groups is visual search becomes very easy and analysis based on this also becomes very easy. So, we can automatically identify and visualize individual groups and communities, and we can also analyze their community structures. This is the advantage of using node edge network layouts for visualizing web communities. Another way by which you can visualize social networked entities is like this. Here they make use of radial tree layout structure, and when you select a particular individual or a node in the given tree structure, the corresponding social individuals details will be displayed on the right hand side of this window. So, like the user ID, number of friends, age, gender, social status, etc., are all highlighted, and with this it will be very easy for us to understand about an individual entity. So, this is another way by which you can visualize web communities. There is also friend of friend way by which you can visualize, and Microsoft has introduced an entity cube, which is an object level search service for visualizing social entities. The two diagrams given here are the outputs of Microsoft's entity cube, wherein different individuals are represented using a circle, and the shades given to the circle highlight the different context. Friend of a friend properties are also used for representing various actors or social entities, their interest and the social relation which is shared among them. So, these two diagrams are also one form of tree layout diagram or node edge diagrams only. If you are trying to visualize email groups, then there are different patterns that can be used, like the onion pattern, nexus pattern and butterfly pattern. All these patterns may be used for clearly understanding how various members in an organization or various members in a social group are trying to communicate with each other through emails. So, this is a diagram which is for visualizing social relations among email groups by Soylent visualization tool. Here you have various control bars with which you can clearly increase, that is zoom in or zoom out, and understand about various social entities who are highlighted by means of their interconnectivity between other members. This is another example for visualization of email groups. So, here the size of the node indicates the relative importance of that individual in the given group based on the number of emails they have communicated. So, the greater the size of the node indicates more the number of emails they have communicated. Then you can have a calendar based visualization of the email groups. So, here you have various calendar dates, and here you can find the different types of keywords that were exchanged in the given mail. So, here you can find the calendar dates and the corresponding context in which emails were exchanged. So, this is another way by which you can visualize email groups. Then there are other forms of data, big data, like digital libraries, wherein co-authorships and co-citation analysis will surely involve lot of visualization. So, what is co-authorship networks is, with the help of visualization of co-authorships, some characteristics like clustering coefficient, average path length and other parameters may be derived and used for analyzing the co-authorships that are highlighted using a network, co-authorship network. Co-citation relations, by means of proper visualizations, we can highlight or we can come up with high impacts of similar citations and use them for the purpose of better research. So, few of the visualization of co-authorship networks of the DLib is highlighted here. Then you can also make use of circle view for visualizing various research articles that were published and citations related to those research articles. When you take a look at this diagram, you can find, say, a research article named Enhanced Web Document Summarization using hyperlinks published by these authors, and there are citations related to this article and these citations are highlighted here. You can also find from this tool that there may be various papers which refers to an important key point discussed in this paper, that is highlighted by, say, darker shades of the circle, and there may be self citations also highlighted by circles along the circumference of a given circle. So, if a particular person has given a detailed reference for the given paper, then that will be indicated by means of the size of the given circle. Likewise, different visual informatic notations may be used for clearly indicating how papers are cited, in what way it is cited, and accordingly what is the impact of such citations can be easily understood. Many web services applications are popularly accessed by users whenever they are trying to connect to various individuals in a social networking environment like Twitters and Facebooks. Visualization of such services. So, here the Twitter social network data is taken and it is analyzed and visualized. The figure indicated by notation A is also a data collected from Twitter social network data that highlights at least one acquaintance, one way acquaintance here, in the sense one individual must be connected to at least one other individual. And the diagram here, the B diagram, highlights the same Twitter social network data having mutual acquaintance, that is, if a person is friend to one individual, then the other individual is also friend to the previous individual. So, two-way acquaintance are highlighted here. Such visualizations, though seem to be very easy to view, but when you want to interpret, sometimes it may be a bit difficult, in the meaning you require some expertise in the domain. Only then these visualizations will help the audience to understand what we are trying to convey through such visualizations. This is an example for a social relationship exhibited in Facebook environment. You may find different groups connected by different members, and you also find a few members, though they have a Facebook login, they do not have any friends. There is a separate group with minimal number of users connected by means of friendship and so on. This is another visualization using IRNet for Facebook communities. Here you can find, say, both a hyperbolic view as well as a local view through which you can click and then focus on a specific individual. This is another way by which you can visualize social network data. Then when you are visualizing, there are different perspectives in which you should visualize. One is user centric. When you are trying to visualize from the perspective of users, you should understand how an actor or an individual, social individual, is represented, what features are essential, who are the key actors, what impact do they have on the rest of the actors available in the given social network environment, etc., need to be clearly highlighted and interpreted in the given social network, and such parameters must also be exploited to the maximum extent for generating a very effective user centric visualization. If it is going to be content centric visualization, means then you will have to make into consideration the contents that are posted or the contents of a given web application. There we will have to strongly analyze the distribution of user opinions, including the key opinion, controversial comments, etc. Then use the user opinions with high impacts for the purpose of creating visualization, and the relationship among different groups or communities need to be clearly highlighted by means of the content. The other way of visualizing is making use of user centric as well as content centric, together called as a hybrid method, because in certain scenarios you need to work on both content as well as user specific. Only then the visualizations prove to be very effective. So, what is that we need to understand from all this is, there are different ways by which you can represent social networks, but finally how we want to visualize and who are our audience. Based on these two questions and answers for this question, you will have to decide what type of visualization may be apt for the given scenario or may be apt for the given set of audience. Accordingly, we will have to generate the visualizations and use it for giving the answers to the audience. So, in summary, data visualizations for social networks are very complex. The reasons are, the size of data that is used for analysis is very high, and moreover, if it is going to be cross domain, then the type of visualization and the networks generated will be very complex. Variety of successful tools and techniques have been adopted in the history for social networks to effectively convey information to the audience, but still then lot of research even today is happening on visualization for social networks, and we should understand social network is one of the largest big data available and which can be freely and easily accessed by the user, and hence visualization for social network is very essential. Thank you.